in Tovshin Mem, Yud Shvat Tovshin Mem, he called the local newspapers and the television to come to the Farbrengen, and he used it was a milestone, 30 years of the Rebbe's Nesias. And the local CBS television showed up. The thing is, Farbrengen, I think, was then at 9:30, 8:30. I don't remember what time the Farbrengen was starting. It was either 8:30 or 9:30, because at that time, the Farbrengens didn't always start at the same time. There were various Farbrengen during time of the year, different times of the year. The Farbrengen started different times. Sometimes 8:30, sometimes 9:30, sometimes could have been even 9 o'clock, as far as I remember. Anyway, my father had an office upstairs on the second floor by 784. He had gone down, it was already 5 minutes before the Farbrengen. He went down already to his place. He used to stand alongside the Rebbe on top of the bima on the left, to the left of the Rebbe. It was hard to get in there, so he went earlier. I had a place that was easier access on the right side, so I was able to come a little closer to the beginning of the Farbrengen. As I'm going downstairs, I see a television crew shows up to do the Farbrengen, to broadcast, not to broadcast, I'm sorry, to do a report on the Farbrengen. I never spent time with the reporters. I never really spoke to them. It wasn't something I either enjoyed to do or wanted to do. But here my father already was downstairs inside 770, and it was the Farbrengen Yud Shvat Shnasa Shleishim was big oilem. It was impossible to get him to tell him they're here. I was stuck to having to deal with them. They showed up, and someone had to deal with them. So I spent time with them, and like I said, I never did it before. And I took them inside 770, and you have to understand the Farbrengen 770 was full packed capacity, wall to wall. To get somebody to get in, to squeeze in, to be able to feel part of the Farbrengen, and especially come with a camera crew, was a very difficult task. In any case, I remember the guy's name was Kramer. I think it's Andrew Kramer. We got him into the Farbrengen, spent some time there. He interviewed some people between the siches, and then we took him around, visited translation. I think we went even to the radio, to the BVD, where Rabbi Hecht was doing the broadcast from the window upstairs, and where Chaim Baruch had the telephone broadcast. And we left. After he spent a few hours, he left. And it was to be broadcast the next day on television, because it was at night, so the next broadcast was the next evening. Just around that period of time, the technology of recording, they had called VCRs, the VHS, or I think there was another one called Betamax, had just come out maybe a year before or something like that, 18 months. It was a new thing, it was a new phenomenon. You can press a button and it records off the television. So I remember, we have a broadcast coming tonight on television. It'll be nice for once if we have a recording. Usually it was on television, that was it. We never got copies, they didn't give you copies, there was nothing you do. No, we had no record of it. So I told my father, we'll go to the Dreamers had a store there on Kingston Avenue, I'll see if he has a VCR, we'll buy a VCR, we'll put it on, and hopefully we'll record it. Anyway, that evening, I don't remember, was it 6 o'clock? I think it was the 6 o'clock news or the 7 o'clock news, I don't remember what it was. We prepared, you had the recorder, pressed record, and Baruch Hashem with Mazel we were able to record it, because I don't know if I would ever be able to, I don't know, never had Mazel again trying to record something over the air. And we had a record of the report that there was that evening. It turns out that the report that they gave then on the CBS station was unbelievable. It worked out, it was something, it was Yetzim and Aklal. Not only was Yetzim and Aklal, as far as the content that was concerned, it was unbelievable. They give like 4 or 5 minutes of time on television. You don't have any news report that they give ever that has, you get a half a minute or a minute or something like that. And this was worked out, we were very happy with how it came out. So the next day, after that broadcast, I don't think it was that night, I think the next day, probably my father mentioned to Rebbe that it was on television the night before. And in fact, they told the Rebbe that we have a recording of it. And if the Rebbe wants to see it, he offered the Rebbe to see it. It's possible today we have technology, we have a tape recorder, and if the Rebbe wants, the Rebbe can see it. And surprisingly, the Rebbe said yes. He made up a time to come in, I remember, the next day or 2 days later in the week. And I prepared, I got cart for the television, for the recorder, and then a monitor. We used a monitor, and hooked up the wires, tested and everything worked. I told my father, okay, here's the monitor, here's everything's put together on a cart, on a stand. Take it in, just plug it into the electric, and press play. That's all you have to do. Just plug it in and press play. I take it from the back, from the father's. We're going from the back door to the Rebbe's room. Next door, Label Grona had the office. Try to do it discreetly and put it in Gan Eden Tachten. And then my father turns to me and says, I'm not sure I know how to do it. I said, the only thing you have to do is just press play. You don't have to do anything. He says, I don't know if I can do it. I think you have to come in to to make sure that it plays. At first I was hesitant, but here we are. He made up a time with Rebbe to view it. I said, okay. I went in, and just described for a minute, it was, to me, I had been to Yechidus for my bar mitzvah earlier, and when I went into Yechidus, Rebbe sat behind the desk in the Yechidus room, and the desk was totally, I don't remember any papers, very few papers on the desk. It was a very different setup than I walked in now to press the play on the VCR. I come in there, and this was after Tovshin Lamed Ches. This is 2 years after Tovshin Lamed Ches. Shmini Atzeres Tovshin Lamed Ches, when everybody knows when Rebbe had the heart attack. And he went upstairs to his room. Then he went out before he agreed to take any medication or anything. The doctor wanted to eat something. He went into the sukkah to make Kiddush. Everybody knows that story. While he was in the sukkah, they brought down from the third floor, they brought down the Friedrich Rebbe's bed to the Rebbe's room, and that's the bed that stayed in the Rebbe's room. I walked in there now with the cart, and right there was really the bed. And also the Rebbe was not sitting in a seat. He wasn't sitting on the chair behind the desk. He was sitting in front of the desk, not in the armchair. He wasn't wearing his hat, he was wearing his glasses, and the sutuk was open. That's how I remember it. So we had to bring the cart. And he was sitting next to the round table that's still in the Rebbe's room, the Rebbe Marash's table. That's where he was sitting. And he had a bunch of papers. And the bed was full of papers. I remember it was amazing. I said, the Rebbe was using a bed to rest. It was full of papers. Like hundreds of papers. It was like piles of papers. Anyway, I go in, plug in the VCR and the monitor, press play, and I was sitting there, watching. I can't say he was sitting there intently. He was just, after, like I said, I think it was 5 minutes, close to 5 minutes, finish, press stop, take the monitor, walk out, and leave it in Gan Eden Tachten. And I go out to the mosquito's office. When I walked out, my father still stayed in the Rebbe's room. I'm standing there a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes. My father comes and he says to me, the Rebbe told me he wants you to come back into the room. He wants to ask you something, but he wants you to answer. He asked me something, but he wants you to answer, that I should answer, and he doesn't want my father to answer for me. Of course, needless to say, I got very nervous. I don't think there was anything made any bocher. I was so young, I was 20 years old at the time. I remember when I had gone into Yechidus for my bar mitzvah and so on, I was extremely nervous. And the other wants to ask me something, go back into the room. We go back in, my father walks in with me. And the Rebbe says to me, he says, ich habe gefragt meinem Taten, aber ich will das allein entfern. I asked your father the question, but I want you should answer the question. So, again, I can tell you what I, probably trembling at that time. So the Rebbe says, I think he's interested. Ich will wissen, du hast mitgetanzt mit Schas Meise. I didn't understand the question. I never understood the question, but I was just maybe stunned by the question. I don't know if you can translate it accurately or not, but the Rebbe was asking, were you dancing along when you did this? When you did I guess when he said this, he meant when the report was prepared or made, when you spend time with the reporters, did you that? I didn't answer, and I didn't. The Rebbe says, this time when I walked back in, the Rebbe's chair was with his back to the window. So when I walked into the room, it was right opposite to me. So I didn't answer. And the Rebbe asked again, I'll tell you, if I could have drilled myself into the floor, I won't forget the feeling. If I could drill myself into the floor, then I would have been happy. What am I? Obviously, the answer is probably no, because, they wouldn't be asking if the answer was yes. I don't know. There's l'chayra. But I still wasn't sure. And the Rebbe was very serious. And he asked again, 3 times. So I made a half yes, a half no, and I let the Rebbe, whatever the Rebbe wants to answer. I wasn't sure how to escape the situation. Anyway, so the Rebbe says, Baruch Hashem, let me go. And he says, Mistamot sicher befreiende Zeit auf Tonnen die in Yonim. Und beschaßt wird befreiende Zeit zu Tonnen die in Yonim, sollst du dann mittanzen, nicht mittanzen auf Jete sein, nur mittanzen auf ein Emes. And basically, that was it. I walked out.